60 years ago, in 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th fell as National Police Week. My name is Brad Koch, and on behalf of the CMPD Awards Committee, I want to welcome you all here to our 2022 Police Week Annual Awards Ceremony. Today is a special occasion as we recognize the outstanding and incredible work our employees have done over the past year. Oftentimes, we feel that work done on a daily basis is ordinary, but that same work is considered extraordinary by our family, friends, and community, and today we get to celebrate that work. Before we get started, I want to recognize a couple of special guests who are here with us. We have United States Secret Service Special Agent in Charge for Charlotte, Reggie Damateus, and Mecklenburg County Deputy Health Director, Dr. Paige Bennett. At this time, I would like At this time, I'd like everyone to please stand for the presentation of our colors by the CMPD Honor Guard, then remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by CMPD Officer Kelvin Moore, followed by our invocation from CMPD Chaplain Jeff Neighbor.
Ready? Turn. Detail. Out. Close. Go. Ready? Face. Breathe in. Out.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. And oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the brave.
Order. Out. Ready? Face. Octa. Out. Air. Draw. Ready? Turn. Air. Draw. Outward. Arch. Air. Draw. Air. Draw. Air. Air. Draw. Air. Out. Air. Draw.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Neighbor. I'm a Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department chaplain, and it's an honor and a blessing for me to be here to speak with you and to pray with you briefly. So if you will, pray with me. Father God, we thank you so much for these lives that you give us. Lord, for these men and women in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, the calling that you've placed in their hearts to do this job, this specific, unique job that is a true calling from you, Lord. And we pray, God, now for their safety, their protection. We thank you, Lord, for the men and women that we'll be honoring here today, that they have and continue to carry out your work. And we thank you again, Lord. We love you, and we pray this in your name. Amen.
All right, you may have a seat. That is the first time I have heard Officer Moore sing, and I certainly won't be the last. That was phenomenal. So at this time, I would like to invite our Chief of Police, Johnny Jennings, to the stage for a few words. Chief Jennings.
Thank you so much. I will say, I thank God that I'm not the one being asked to sing the national anthem. I'd give it a try, but you probably would leave the building. But we have a great group of, a lot of talent within our police department. I'm proud to hear every time we have somebody new singing the national anthem. That's fantastic. So thank you all for being here. What a great, not just a great day, but a great week. This is a time when I'll be candid and honest that there are times when I think I have the toughest job in the country. And then there are times when I sit back and I say I have the greatest job in the country. And this is one of those times when we're able to celebrate the great work that the men and women that serve our city, the great work that they do every single day. It's just fantastic to be able to know that they're appreciated and that their work does not go unseen. A lot of the things that you're going to hear today are things that don't necessarily make the news, don't necessarily get a lot of public attention, because they are things that our officers went above and beyond to make sure that they don't get to the point that they are newsworthy. But we know they're newsworthy because we know that the work that they do is important and the work that they do is appreciated. So I want to thank everyone for being here, all the family members who have come, and thank you for giving us your loved ones to do this hard work. And thank you for your commitment to CMPD. So as we celebrate and listen to the stories, some of them are tragic, some of them are heroic, and some of them are just people, officers that you see have gone above the call of duty. But at the same time, we know that this is not an easy job, but we have great men and women who have answered that call for service, and that's what you're going to hear today. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to getting the ceremony going.
Departmental Awards. Patrol Training Officer of the Year. The Patrol Training Officer of the Year award is presented to the PTO who has demonstrated exceptional leadership qualities in training newly sworn officers in patrol functions, preliminary investigative functions, state and municipal laws, and departmental policies, practices, and procedures.
This year's recipient is Officer Tim Snyder. Serving the CMPD since 1996, Officer Snyder has been a patrol training officer for 19 years. He consistently demonstrates a high level of dedication to duty that carries over to how he trains his rookies. Officer Snyder holds himself to a high standard, and holds his rookies to a higher standard, which contributes to their growth as police officers. Officer Snyder makes it a priority to be out in the field with his rookies, actively patrolling hotspots, being visible, answering calls for service, making citizen contacts, and performing proactive police work. What truly stands out about Officer Snyder is the personality he brings as a PTO. He takes to heart his duty, which is not just as a trainer, but as a coach and mentor. It's the manner Officer Snyder performs his work that stands out. He's characterized as one of the most soft-spoken, even-tempered officers, never raising his voice in anger. When Officer Snyder corrects a rookie when they make a mistake, he has a way of speaking that is quietly authoritative. He does not belittle rookies or make them feel inferior. Instead, he asks questions, walking them through the problem calmly and getting his rookies to work out the correct response themselves to achieve the desired results. Congratulations, Officer Snyder.
School Resource Officer of the Year. The School Resource Officer of the Year Award is presented to the SRO who has demonstrated exceptional leadership qualities to reduce crime on school property and throughout the surrounding communities to develop a positive learning environment.
This year's recipient is Officer Maurice Farr. Officer Farr has served as a school resource officer for over 20 years, serving at West Charlotte High School for the past 13 years. He uses his time to build strong and lasting relationships with the community, school, and students. He's well respected, allowing him to connect with many of the students, offering advice and guidance. Officer Farr has been able to change the course of many students' lives in positive ways, and he has helped bridge the gap between CMPD and the students who may have a negative perception of the police. Using his relationship with students, Officer Farr can gather information and tips to resolve many of the problems on campus before they become criminal offenses. Officer Farr frequently uses the CMPD and CMS diversion programs instead of making an arrest. He's an active participant in many of the community and alumni events at a school with such a significant historical importance to the community. Congratulations, Officer Farr.
Detective of the Year. The Detective of the Year Award is presented to the detective whose body of work demonstrated a high degree of creativity, tenacity, and sense of urgency in solving cases.
This year's recipient is Detective Michael Melendez. A member of the Sexual Assault Unit for over 19 years, Detective Melendez is the longest tenured member of the unit, as well as the Criminal Investigations Bureau. During Detective Melendez's time with the Sexual Assault Unit, he has demonstrated the ability to investigate a wide range of sex assault cases with unmatched results. Detective Melendez is always first to volunteer for new cases or callback when a replacement is needed. He regularly stays late to work his own cases or assist whoever needs assistance with their cases, always with a positive team attitude. Detective Melendez routinely receives high praise from victims and their families and from the district attorney's office. Detective Melendez is the go-to detective for high-profile cases, holding one of the highest clearance rates in the unit, exclusively due to his ability, dedication, and work ethic. Congratulations, Detective Melendez.
Telecommunicator of the Year. The Telecommunicator of the Year is presented to a member of the Communications Division who has shown professionalism, exceptional work, and a positive attitude.
This year's recipient is Tiffany Brown. Tiffany Brown has been with the CMPD Communications Division for 4.5 years and is a senior member of the third shift training team. In 2021, Tiffany trained several telecommunicators on both 911 and radio functions and is always willing to step up when needed to help the 911 communications training program succeed. In addition, Tiffany is a member of the mentoring program, which guides and develops telecommunicators through their new career in 911 communications. She's a leader known to lead by example, always willing to help anyone in need, and constantly goes above and beyond when performing her duties as a telecommunicator. Congratulations, Tiffany.
Civilian Employee of the Year. The Outstanding Civilian Employee of the Year is presented to a civilian member of the CMPD who has distinguished themselves through either an accumulation of exceptional contributions or in a single incident.
This year's recipient is Michael Bedard. As the Contracts and Facility Administrator Coordinator, Mike has been responsible for the implementation of the strategic plan to house patrol divisions within city-owned buildings that are designed specifically to meet the needs of our officers and support staff. Mike has been at the forefront of this work, overseeing the entire process of each new building, from funding to planning to construction to operational functioning, often managing multiple projects at the same time. Mike's success is in his positive, can-do attitude and his interpersonal skills to deliver exactly what is needed to meet the department's strategic goals. As if this were not enough, Mike is responsible for the day-to-day operational workings of all CMPD facilities and is often called upon to fix problems with building elevators, parking decks, parking spots, storage lots, warehouses, and aviation hangars, to name a few. Who has not heard Mike, when faced with a problem, say, "It's all good"? Congratulations, Mike, on your accomplishments. Thank you.
The Sworn Employee of the Year. The Sworn Employee of the Year is presented to sworn members of the CMPD who distinguish themselves through either an accumulation of exceptional contributions or a single incident, and whose actions clearly place the individual well above others of equal rank or grade.
This year's Sworn Officer of the Year is Officer Trey Hinton. Officer Hinton is being recognized for his outstanding work as a member of Project 4140, whose objective is to reduce Part 1 crimes in the I-85 corridor between Graham Street and Sugar Creek Road. Individually, Officer Hinton developed a positive and long-lasting relationship with the citizens and business owners in this corridor. A highly motivated officer, Officer Hinton's positive attitude is infectious, having the ability to motivate those around him. Officer Hinton genuinely cares for those he works with and the citizens he serves. Officer Hinton has raised over $5,000, resulting in an elementary school fully supplied with bicycles, helmets, and training for teachers for the All Kids Bike program. Also during this past year, Officer Hinton has made 48 arrests, 30 of which were felony, conducted several narcotics or human trafficking investigations where multiple arrests were made, and conducted multiple narcotics investigations where substantial amounts of narcotics and firearms were seized. Congratulations, Officer Hinton. When Officer Mia Goodwin, Officer Jackson Buffington, Officer Sean Husk, and Officer Shannon Foster arrived for their roll call at the University City Division Team Office on Tuesday, December 21st at 7:45 p.m. None of them realized their lives would be inextricably linked and changed forever. This morning, we recognize and honor those 4 officers: 1, who tragically lost her life; 2, who were seriously injured; and 1 for her exceptional performance during a tragic incident on Interstate 85 in the early morning hours of December 22nd. We honor Officer Mia Goodwin with the Gold Police Cross. This is awarded posthumously to any CMPD officer killed in the line of duty. We honor Officer Jackson Buffington and Officer Sean Husk with the Purple Heart. This is awarded to any CMPD officer who is seriously injured in the performance of his or her duties. We honor Officer Shannon Foster with the Medal of Merit. This is awarded to any CMPD officer who has performed admirably in response to a specific situation. On Wednesday, December 22nd, shortly before 3:40 in the morning, Officer Mia Goodwin lost her life in the line of duty. Officer Goodwin was assisting with traffic direction and control on the scene of a tractor-trailer truck crash that had occurred the previous night on Interstate 85 near West W.T. Harris Boulevard. While at the scene, a second crash involving 2 additional tractor-trailer trucks occurred in the area, striking multiple CMPD vehicles and, tragically, Officer Goodwin. 2 other officers, Officer Buffington and Officer Husk, were knocked unconscious and sustained serious injuries. Additionally, Officer Foster's vehicle was struck. However, she exhibited exceptional performance by being able to keep her wits and communicate by radio to relay vital information to summon help for all officers. Officer Buffington, Officer Husk, and Officer Foster were all transported to the hospital that night for treatment. Officer Goodwin was a 6-year veteran of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department and a member of the 172nd Recruit Class. She was assigned to the University City Division and was the first female officer in the department's history to be killed in the line of duty. Officer Goodwin's service to our community was honored by thousands of people through social media condolences, by paying respects at the University City Division team office, and by attending the procession and memorial service in late December. Her service was held at First Baptist Church in Uptown Charlotte with family, community members, law enforcement officers, firefighters, and first responders from all over the country in attendance. Officer Goodwin was a native of Passaic, New Jersey, and a High Point University graduate. She was 33 years old and came from a family of first responders. She's survived by her parents, her brother, her sister, her husband, Brenton Goodwin, a Charlotte firefighter, and their 3 young children, Gabriella, Grayson, and Gia. At this time, we would like to share a video created by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Foundation to honor Officer Goodwin.
Today, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is hurting for the loss of police officer Mia Goodwin. And the profession hurts, our city hurts. I think I can speak for Officer Goodwin and any parent. This profession is one that's not for everyone. But I do know that she knew it was for her. And I know that she wanted to continue and make this a career, not just a job. Everyone really, really loved Mia. Not because they knew her personally, but because for what she stood for, because of who she was.
Mia was deeply committed to being a police officer, a woman who chooses a job that few women choose and does it exceptionally as an officer, as a wife, and as a mother.
At this time, I would ask you to please help me welcome to the stage Officer Goodwin's husband and father, Mr. Brenton Goodwin, Mr. Antonio Figueroa, who are both accepting the Gold Police Cross on Mia's behalf, as well as Officer Jackson Buffington, Officer Sean Husk, and Officer Shannon Foster. Once again, we can please thank them all for coming here and sharing a meal with us. Thank you very much.
Purple Heart and Medal of Valor. The Purple Heart is awarded to a CMPD officer who is seriously injured in the performance of his or her duties due to assaults or other circumstances requiring action by the officer. The Medal of Valor may be awarded to employees who have distinguished themselves by acts of extraordinary bravery in the performance of an act to preserve life or property with the clear risk of serious injury or death present during the action.
This year's recipient is Officer Elliot Whitley. Officer Whitley was working first shift patrol in the Hickory Road Division on December 22nd when he heard an armed robbery call for service dispatched in the Independence Division close to his location. He self-dispatched himself, and upon his arrival, he encountered the suspect, who immediately fled on foot despite verbal commands. As Officer Whitley gave chase, the suspect pulled a handgun from his waistband and fired at Officer Whitley, striking him in the left shoulder. Officer Whitley immediately returned fire and began advising over the radio of his location and condition. Not only did he treat his own wound, but he also successfully directed other units to the suspect, who was still in possession of the handgun. It was later discovered that the suspect had abandoned a stolen vehicle, broken into multiple other cars, and robbed a victim at gunpoint just prior to Officer Whitley's arrival on scene. Officer Whitley displayed great valor in the face of danger, and even after being shot, helped to apprehend and remove a dangerous suspect from the streets. Congratulations and thank you, Officer Whitley.
Medal of Valor. The Medal of Valor may be awarded to employees who have distinguished themselves by acts of extraordinary bravery in the performance of an act to preserve life or property with the clear risk of serious injury or death present during the action.
Our first recipient of the Medal of Valor is Officer Edward Mark. During the evening of December 18th, the suspect, displaying increasingly violent and erratic behavior, took a 13-year-old girl hostage and threatened to kill her with a large knife. Officers arrived on scene and immediately attempted to verbally de-escalate the situation while calling for assistance from SWAT. The suspect's words and actions left little doubt that he intended to kill this child. Officer Mark, as the first and only SWAT officer on scene, assumed tactical control and attempted to rescue the child by physically placing himself in direct contact with the armed suspect. Officer Mark was left with little choice but to use deadly force to rescue the victim once the suspect began to stab her repeatedly. The victim thankfully survived the attack with non-life-threatening injuries as a direct result of Officer Mark's extreme bravery and quick decision-making. Congratulations, Officer Mark. Our next recipient of the Medal of Valor is Officer Robert Ehlers. Officers in the Hickory Grove Division received reports of a kidnapping call for service on December 22nd. The 911 caller advised that the suspect hit the victim in the face with a firearm and then forced her into a vehicle at gunpoint before taking off with her. Officer Ehlers was able to locate the suspect's vehicle and began a pursuit. During this pursuit, the suspect leaned out the passenger window and fired shots toward Officer Ehlers, striking his patrol vehicle. Thankfully, Officer Ehlers was not injured. Officer Ehlers continued to pursue the suspect until the suspect pulled over a short distance later. The victim was able to escape the vehicle as the suspect took his own life. Because of Officer Ehlers' actions, the victim survived the ordeal. Congratulations, Officer Ehlers.
Medal of Merit. The Medal of Merit Award recognizes CMPD employees who have performed admirably in response to specific situations. The incident may have been of an emergency nature or a routine event, but the employee's exceptional performance merits special recognition.
Our first recipient of the Medal of Merit is Officer Raymond St. John. On October 15th, bank robbery suspects discarded their vehicle at a dead end below I-77. Officer St. John sprinted up the side of a steep hill and across I-77, hurdled over a guardrail, jumped over the center median, all while taking a running leap over a second guardrail to tackle the first suspect to the ground and apprehend him. He recovered more than $100,000 in stolen money. As additional officers responded to the scene to recover the first suspect, Officer St. John immediately took off at a dead sprint to pursue the second suspect, who was observed about 100 yards away down I-77 as he was attempting to take a vehicle. He tackled this suspect as well, taking him into custody. Officer St. John's impeccable performance during this call contributed to the capture of 2 suspects and the recovery of stolen funds. Officer St. John's performance from the beginning to the conclusion of this call, said Lieutenant Dave Miller, was one of the finest pieces of police work I've observed as an individual on an individual call for service during my entire career. Congratulations, Officer St. John. Our next recipient of the Medal of Merit is Officer Mara Brennan. While directing traffic in an off-duty capacity, Officer Brennan was flagged down by a frantic female. After radioing for immediate assistance, Officer Brennan approached the vehicle to assess the situation and realized that there was a female in the back seat who was in active child labor. Officer Brennan immediately began assisting with the delivery. The quick actions of Officer Brennan contributed to the successful delivery of a healthy baby girl. Congratulations, Officer Brennan. Our final recipient of the Medal of Merit is Sergeant Joseph Pendergrass. After arriving to an assault with a deadly weapon call for service, officers found that the suspect had taken a 13-year-old hostage. Sergeant Pendergrass immediately began negotiations with the suspect in an attempt to negotiate a peaceful surrender. Sergeant Pendergrass summoned necessary resources to respond, including SWAT and patrol rifle officers. Sergeant Pendergrass was able to build a rapport with the suspect in an attempt to keep the suspect focused on the negotiations and not the victim. When de-escalation efforts were not successful and the suspect assaulted the victim with a knife, additional resources arrived and the threat was neutralized. Officers immediately rendered medical care to the injured victim before medic transported her to the hospital. She survived her injuries and eventually recovered physically. The quick thinking and negotiation efforts of Sergeant Pendergrass demonstrate exceptional performance in a tenuous situation. Congratulations, Sergeant Pendergrass.
Preservation of Life Medal. The Preservation of Life Medal may be awarded to a CMPD employee who utilized exceptional tactics or verbal approaches beyond the normal demands of duty to sustain human life or to de-escalate any situation that could have resulted in a deadly response.
Recipients of this year's Preservation of Life are Officer Jacob Powell and Officer Cartel Pitters. Officer Powell and Officer Pitters responded to a domestic violence assault call for service where a teenage male had assaulted his mother. The officers tried to engage the subject in conversation. However, he was experiencing a mental breakdown and did not respond. This individual picked up a piece of glass and threatened to kill himself with it. Officer Powell deployed a taser and struck the subject. Both officers moved in and took control of him without using additional force. The officers secured this individual and helped him calm down so that he could be treated. These officers displayed excellent tactics and de-escalation techniques to deter the subject from harming himself. Congratulations, Officer Pitters and Officer Powell.
Life-Saving Award. The Life-Saving Award recognizes an employee for saving a human life. This year, we have 39 recipients of this prestigious award.
Our first recipient is Sergeant Joseph Gibbons. On February 2nd, Sergeant Gibbons was en route to a call and observed a male on the bridge at Betty's Ford Road and Brookshire Boulevard. Sergeant Gibbons observed the subject's abnormal actions and exited his vehicle to check on this individual. The subject was uncooperative, and after an hour of negotiations, the subject attempted to jump off the bridge. Sergeant Gibbons grabbed this individual and pulled him to the ground. Beginning to end prevented this individual from committing suicide or injuring anyone else on Brookshire Boulevard. Congratulations, Sergeant Gibbons. Our next recipient is Kaishan Merchant. On February 11th, shortly before 10 a.m., Officer Merchant responded to a Priority 1 overdose call for service near the Metro Division team office. Officer Merchant arrived on scene and immediately assessed the victim was suffering from an apparent drug overdose. After Officer Merchant administered Narcan and conducted several rounds of CPR with the assistance of Captain Veith, the victim, who was clinically dead, regained a pulse. There is no doubt that the officer's quick thinking and emergency preparedness saved the victim's life. Congratulations, Officer Merchant. Our next recipients are Sergeant Brandon Kimball, Officer Tyler Poe, Officer Jesse Rubino, Officer Zachary Stewart, Officer John Crook, Officer Dustin Smith, and Officer Anna Moss, who Officer Mark Lester is accepting for Officer Moss as she is en route to D.C. on a bicycle right now. On September 23rd, Westover Division officers responded to an assault with a deadly weapon call for service. There was a report of a suspect shooting a gun during a disturbance at a beauty supply store. After sustaining a gunshot wound, the suspect fled the scene, resulting in a vehicle pursuit. This individual eventually crashed the vehicle and ran. Officers pursued this individual on foot and took her into custody. The officers immediately requested medic and began performing life-saving treatment on the suspect for multiple gunshot wounds. The officers worked as a team and used their tactical medical training to tend to the most serious injuries until medic arrived. After the suspect arrived at the hospital, the initial assessment was that the suspect would survive. All of these officers' quick action, teamwork, and application of training saved this individual's life. Congratulations to all of them. Our next recipients are Officer Yongmin Kim, Officer Kia McKinney, and Officer Marshall Reese. On January 24th, Officer Kim, Officer McKinney, and Officer Reese responded to an assault with a deadly weapon call for service on South Mint Street. Upon arrival, the officers located a male suffering from numerous gunshot wounds. He was suffering severe blood loss, and medic was delayed due to the scene not being secure. The officers attempted to apply multiple tourniquets but were unable due to the highly hostile crowd that had surrounded them. The officers utilized quick thinking and pulled the victim into the rear of a patrol car, and the three of them self-transported the victim to Atrium, Maine. Had the officers not made this split-second decision to transport the victim, it's likely that he would have died. Congratulations, officers. Our next recipients are Officer Nathan Phillips and Officer Coleman Stokes. On January 10th, Officer Phillips and Officer Stokes responded to a suicide call for service. The subject was in a barricaded upstairs bathroom. The officers persuaded the subject to let them open the door, and once inside, the officers observed the suspect with blood running down his shirt and into his hands. The subject had cut his neck with a straight razor. Officers immediately began applying pressure to the victim's neck with towels until medic arrived. Without the quick response of Officer Phillips and Officer Stokes, the victim would have quickly bled out from the cuts he made to his neck. Congratulations, Officer Phillips and Officer Stokes. Our next recipients are Officer Matthew Leahy and Officer Devin Wilson. On September 26, Officer Leahy and Officer Wilson, along with two others, responded to a single vehicle motorcycle accident. The victim was thrown from his motorcycle into a metal wire, causing the right arm to be severed and several severe breaks to the left arm and right leg. Officer Leahy applied a tourniquet above the victim's severed right arm, while Officer Wilson packed gauze into the arm. Officer Davis applied a tourniquet to the victim's left arm, and Officer Gonzalez applied a tourniquet to the victim's right leg. All four officers worked in a calm and proficient manner to stop 3 separate arterial bleeds with tourniquets, which allowed medic to immediately apply a neck brace and transport this individual to the hospital. Officers also located the detached arm so it could be transported for possible reattachment. Officers Leahy, Officer Davis, Officer Gonzalez, and Officer Wilson performed this coordinated life-saving response with precision and calm despite such grievous injuries in a chaotic scene. Congratulations, officers. Our next recipients are Officer Nathan Hunterwaddle, Officer Nicholas Louise, Officer Caleb Corrales. On August 7th, Officer Hunter Waddle, Officer Corrales, and Officer Louise responded to a shots fired call for service in the North Division. Upon arrival to the scene, Officer Hunter Waddle discovered a subject with life-threatening injuries due to several gunshot wounds. He applied numerous tourniquets to these wounds, stopping several possible arterial bleeds. Officer Luis and Officer Corrales arrived to assist with first aid efforts until medic could arrive on scene. The medical care rendered by these officers assisted in saving the subject's life. Congratulations, officers. Our next recipients are Sergeant Aaron Anderson, Officer Alexander Flores, Officer Jawan Brown, Officer Sid Patel, and Officer Cameron Babine. On December 7th, North Division officers responded to a shots fired call for service. Officers located a subject with 3 gunshot wounds, including one in the neck. They immediately began providing life-saving first aid. Officer Flores, who was a medic before joining the department, used supplies from his personal kit to render aid to the victim with assistance from the other officers. The officers ensured that the victim's airway was open and applied gauze and pressure to the victim's 3 wounds. They began to apply a cervical collar, however, decided against it due to the gunshot wound to the throat. Without the coordinated medical care provided by Sergeant Anderson, Officer Flores, Officer Brown, Officer Patel, and Officer Babine, the subject would not have survived. Congratulations, officers and sergeants. Our next recipient is Officer Joshua Heater. Officer Heater was dispatched to a shots fired call for service. The victim was on the ground unresponsive. Officer Heater used his own trauma shears to cut off the victim's shirt to help assess the victim's injuries, finding an arterial bleed. Officer Heater, using his experience as a former medic, was able to assess and provide the best level of treatment possible, directing officers on the scene where to apply pressure, while Officer Heater using gauze to slow the bleeding. Officer Heater provided the Charlotte Fire Department with an accurate assessment once they arrived on scene, allowing firefighters to immediately attend to the victim's wounds. Officer Heater remained calm and collected throughout the entire incident. Using his training and experience, Officer Heater provided top level of life-saving care to the victim. He's commended for saving the victim's life. Congratulations, Officer Heater. Our next recipient is Officer Daryl Soto. Officer Soto and Officer Webb responded to a call for service at Statesville Road and I-85 South, where they located a suicidal subject who had climbed over the railing of the overpass bridge. They engaged in conversation quickly with the subject, establishing rapport. During the conversation, they were able to reposition and safely secure the subject until the fire department and medic arrived. The subject was safely transported to a hospital where he was able to receive mental health treatment. The officer's use of excellent communication skills, quick problem-solving abilities, and tactics to safely resolve a dangerous life-threatening situation ultimately saved the subject's life. Congratulations. Our next recipient is Officer Matthew Mays. Officer Mays and Officer Chester responded to a call for service to find the suspect had taken a 13-year-old victim hostage. De-escalation efforts were not successful, and the suspect began assaulting the victim with a knife. As soon as the suspect was neutralized, Officers Mays and Chester assessed the life-threatening injuries of the victim. The officers quickly identified a cut artery and immediately applied a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. The victim was transported to the hospital, where she would eventually recover physically. The trauma doctor said that the application of the tourniquet was a deciding factor in saving the victim's life. Without the application of life-saving techniques, the victim would not be alive today. Congratulations, Officer Mays. Our next recipients are Officer Jonathan Gonzalez, Officer Edwin Morales, Officer Kendall Jackson, and Officer Corey Malden. Officers Gonzalez, Morales, Jackson, and Malden conducted a critical assessment and packing of a self-inflicted gunshot wound of a subject with a hemostatic combat gauze prior to the arrival of medic, using their training and experience they gained while attending TACMED. The action taken by these officers stopped the bleeding and kept the subject's blood pressure present, enabling the subject to receive further medical treatment at the hospital. The medic supervisor on scene observed that the packing was administered with extreme precision, quickly, and very efficiently, leading to minimal blood loss and certainly saved the victim's life. Congratulations, officers. Our next recipient is Officer Bradley Topper. Officer Topper responded to an officer-involved shooting involving a Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office deputy who suffered 5 gunshot wounds. Officer Topper immediately rendered aid to the deputy by applying a tourniquet to the deputy's leg. Officer Topper's quick action stabilized the deputy until the arrival of the fire department and medic. Officer Topper maintained composure in a tense, unfolding situation while providing clear and concise radio communications to request additional help. Congratulations, Officer Topper. Our final life-saving award of the year goes to Officer Michael Brinegar. On February 5th, officers responded to a Priority 1 accident with injuries called for service. Upon arriving on scene, the vehicle involved in the accident was not on the road service. In fact, it had gone off the roadway, through the guardrail, and down an embankment. Officer Brinegar observed the citizen involved in the accident was covered in a significant amount of blood due to a severe neck injury. Officer Brinegar, a former U.S. Army medic, used his knowledge, training, and experience, immediately realizing that the citizen was in a life-threatening condition, was in shock, and was very close to succumbing to his injuries due to the amount of blood loss. Officer Brinegar used direct pressure on the wound until the fire department and medic arrived. When medic did arrive, the citizen was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Although the citizen lost a tremendous amount of blood, he survived. It's very likely that if Officer Brinegar did not take these actions that he did when he did, that the citizen would not be alive today. Congratulations, officer.
Civilian Employee Service Award. The Civilian Employee Service Award is presented to a civilian police employee who exemplifies the mission and principles of CMPD.
This year's recipient is L.B. Wallace of the Property and Evidence Management Division. Property and Evidence Supervisor L.B. Wallace manages the vehicle evidence tow lot. This lot was storing more than 600 vehicles despite the 400 vehicle limit capability. To alleviate the overcrowding, LB mailed letters to the owners of vehicles that were ready to be released, advising the owners that they could get paid for their vehicles by having them salvaged. LB received multiple responses almost immediately from owners who were willing to meet a salvage company on site and sell the vehicle to them for cash. Next, LB was able to establish a temporary lot for 100 vehicles to be stored that were no longer needed for evidentiary purposes. He developed an efficient system for placing the vehicles on the computer system, for documenting where the vehicles were stored. And in addition to these initiatives, LB personally meets every vehicle owner at either of the 2 locations when an owner is coming to pick up a vehicle or have it sold to salvage, ensuring that the owner has a positive experience with CMPD. Congratulations, LB.
Citizen Service Award. The Citizen Service Award is presented to citizens who have worked with the police and exhibited considerable initiative and resolve in one or more of the following areas: addressing problems within the community, improving neighborhood safety and conditions, serving as a community leader as demonstrated by their actions, service or work with youth, and/or have accomplished some other extraordinary act of service to CMPD or the community.
This year's first recipient of the Citizen Service Award is Mr. Bernal Berry of One Love. Mr. Berry, a true partner to his community in CMPD and his nonprofit organization, One Love, has organized many community initiatives in the Betty's Ford corridor and across Charlotte. A sample of his successful programs that he's organized, including a gun lock giveaway on Betty's Ford Road, providing over 100 gun locks, a community youth day at Lincoln Heights Park that included food, entertainment, games, and activity stations for the kids. At Christmas, Mr. Berry and One Love conducted a community event where Santa Claus visited and provided gifts to the families in the community. Mr. Berry's love of Charlotte's residents, specifically the youth in his community, has made a huge impact on the West Side. Mr. Berry continues to perform outstanding work, making a significant positive impact on the residents of the community, and he's joined on stage by his wife, Jamie, and his daughter, Jasmine. Our next recipient of the Citizen Service Award is Hickory Grove Baptist Church. What initially began as an effort to keep CMPD's college students in the CMPD cadet program engaged throughout the pandemic evolved into a CMPD weekly food distribution that has now become a service staple within the CMPD Community Services Bureau. Every Wednesday for the past 2 years, volunteers from Hickory Grove Baptist Church have contacted local grocery retailers for food donations to help those in need of additional assistance. The team of volunteers have been instrumental in feeding, on average, over 200 families each week in areas of Charlotte where food insecurity is a major threat to the stability and well-being of individuals and families. The staff and volunteers of Hickory Grove Baptist Church are to be commended for their tireless efforts and commitment in ensuring at least of those among us who have access to food and grocery items that they may otherwise be unable to afford. Accepting this award on behalf of Hickory Grove Baptist Church are Clint Presley, Charlie Norwood, and Casey Norgett. Thank you very much.
The Judy Williams Lifetime Citizen Achievement Award. The Judy Williams Lifetime Citizen Achievement Award is presented to an individual or group who, over their lifetime, has made long-term and significant contributions to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg community and has improved the quality of life for citizens, or whose accomplishments have brought recognition to Charlotte. This award is named after Judy Williams, a woman who left a legacy of service, gratitude, and dedication to the Charlotte community. Ms. Williams co-founded MAMA, or Mothers of Murdered Offspring, and she set the standard for empathy, compassion, and understanding by personally contacting every family affected by a homicide.
To help present this award, Lisa Crawford with Momo has joined Chief Jennings on the stage. Our first recipients of the Judy Williams Lifetime Citizen Achievement Award is First Baptist Church. The First Baptist Church has provided their church and facilities to CMPD for over 25 years, not only for our annual Police Week ceremony, but memorial services for fallen officer Mia Goodwin, Officer Julio Herrera, and telecommunicator Robert Teague. First Baptist Church has gone above and beyond to provide any additional support they can contribute, including their dining facilities, musicians, audio-visual support, sponsoring community events in partnership with CMPD and the fire department, or anything else that we may need. The First Baptist Church goes above and beyond to open their doors to the department and has made a positive impact on the entire Charlotte-Mecklenburg community. Accepting this award for First Baptist Church is Reverend Robert Welch. Thank you very much. Our next recipients, one more. Yeah. Our next recipients of the Judy Williams Lifetime Citizen Achievement Award is Child Development Community Policing Program, or otherwise known as CDCP. The CDCP program began 25 years ago in Charlotte-Mecklenburg through the joint efforts of the department and Mecklenburg County. A city-county professional response for children exposed to violence, and CDCP has become the largest program of its kind in the nation. The pilot project began in the Metro Division, where there was a higher incidence of violent crime impacting families with children. CDCP clinicians focus on children who are victims of violence, witnesses to violence, or other potentially traumatic events. The clinicians provide immediate interventions with the goal of decreasing symptoms, restoring safety, and potentially lessening the need for long-term mental health services. There are currently 13 clinicians serving almost 7,000 referred families in all 13 CMPD's patrol divisions. This award is to recognize CDCP for their 25 years of acute trauma response in partnership with the department. And accepting the award for CDCP are Kimberly James Williams, Tiffany Sanders, and Stacy Butler. Congratulations and thank you.
Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing. The Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing may be awarded to CMPD employees who have distinguished themselves by exceptional performance that clearly benefited CMPD, citizens, the communities we police, and/or advanced the field of policing in general.
Our first recipient for the Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing go to individuals who participated in the 22nd Street investigation, including Christine Burr, Christy Price, Rachel LaSalle, James Peace, Allison Kuntz, Detective Christopher McNeil, Brittany Patterson, Todd Roberts, and Eve Rossi. These award recipients worked as a team to assist the CMPD homicide unit with quickly identifying and ultimately capturing a very dangerous murder suspect. Crime scene search staff processed the crime scene for trace evidence working in full-body Tyvek protection suits and successfully located a fingerprint that was used to identify the suspect. Our cyber crimes detectives pulled video footage that captured the homicide while crime lab personnel came into work on a holiday to conduct immediate analysis of the evidence, which successfully identified a suspect. Prior to coming to Charlotte, the suspect killed a victim in Greensboro, North Carolina, and just prior to the Charlotte homicide, he attempted to assault a jogger on a nearby greenway. The quick identification and arrest of this dangerous suspect was a direct result of collaborative teamwork of this group of professionals. Thank you very much and congratulations. Chief, you get your steps in up here? Okay, good. Our next recipients for the Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing go to those individuals who participated in the Myers Park serial investigation, including Eve Rossi, Detective Carol Owens, Sergeant Darrell Price, Sarah Savicki, Abby Moykins, Anthony Roncase, and Chastity Markle. From 1990 through 1999, there were a series of sexual assaults that occurred throughout Charlotte and Pineville. The suspect was dubbed by the media at the time as the Myers Park rapist. These crimes were committed by a single suspect against victims ranging in age from 3 to 29. Due to the thousands of hours of investigative and crime lab work by these award recipients, this case was resolved. The suspect was successfully identified using forensic genetic genealogy. 15 victims and their families were finally given peace and resolution as to who committed the crimes. Congratulations. Our next recipients for the Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing go to those individuals who participated in the digital app investigation, including Detective Jeffrey King, Detective David Jester, United States Secret Service Special Agent Matt Hayes, United Secret Service Special Agent Cody Ayers. In August of 2021, the Durham Police Department began receiving numerous reports of financial transaction card fraud taking place in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. The suspects were able to conduct over 800 transactions, which resulted in a loss of over $200,000. These investigators were able to use various forms of surveillance to identify, apprehend, and charge the ringleaders with multiple felony offenses associated with their involvement in these crimes. Walgreens Major Crime Division manager said that these investigators worked tirelessly on this case to identify and apprehend these suspects involved in a large-scale digital wallet app investigation that negatively impacted the Carolinas and surrounding states by fraudulently using stolen credit card numbers to purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars in gift cards, cigarettes, and other high-risk merchandise. Thank you very much and congratulations. Our next recipients of the Chiefs Award for Excellence in Policing go to those individuals who participated in the Carlock Circle initiative, including Detective Stephanie Alcantara, Officer Roderick Johnston, and Officer Mark Musel. These award recipients were tasked to implement a plan of action to address the open-air drug market that was taking place on Carlock Circle in the Hickory Grove Division. Surveillance was conducted in the area of Carlock Circle, and ultimately detectives were able to identify key participants in the drug market and make numerous narcotics purchases, leading to the arrests of multiple suspects. In addition, the Hickory Grove Division community coordinators had the trees and foliage trimmed back at the dead end so that criminal activity could not be concealed by both the layout of the street and the vegetation in the area. This work has led to a reduction in citizen complaints and criminal activity taking place. Congratulations and thank you. Our next recipients of the Chief's Award for Excellence in Policing go to our crime gun suppression team. Include Sergeant Daniel Bignell, Sergeant Terrence Gerald, Detective Seth Adcox, Detective Chuck Hastings, Detective Jason Greer, Detective Matt Wilson, Detective Brian Comer, Detective Dan Harmon, Detective Barry Kipp, Detective Jared Decker, Lisa Labriola, Jason Ben Savage with North Carolina Probation, Jason Baker with North Carolina Probation, Deputy United States Marshal Service Christopher Kitchens, and Nyasia Rosario with HSI. Through intelligence-based policing, detectives have been able to specifically target violent offenders and gangs who have been responsible for the increase in incidents of shooting into occupied property offenses. This team has been able to conduct specific operations to locate and seize firearms. In 2021, the Crime Gun Suppression Team and their partners, Division Crime Reduction Units, Crime Analysis Division, Criminal Intelligence Division, North Carolina Probation, U.S. Marshal Service, and Homeland Security have seized 155 firearms and made 162 arrests. This collaborative work effort is taking violent offenders and firearms off the street of Charlotte on an ongoing basis. Congratulations, detectives.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Our next recipient of the Chief's Award for Excellence in Policing goes to Officer Jeffrey Joseph for his work on CMPD serves. Officer Joseph, who served for 17 years in the Patrol Services Group, helped to lead the CMPD Serves program to transform the way CMPD employees engage with each other and the public. Officer Joseph was a member of the focus group who actually built the program. Through his participation in these focus groups, he helped shape this work that is now the foundation of CMPD Serves program. Officer Joseph then became an instructor to teach the work and was selected as one of 5 employees appointed to the CMPD Serves team. On behalf of the Chief Jennings, to shepherd this work for the entire department. Congratulations, and thank you, Officer Joseph. Our next Chief's Award for Excellence in Policing goes to Andrea Wilson for her sustained excellence in crime analysis. Andrea is assigned to the Crime Analysis Division as a data analytics specialist lead. She's being recognized for her work with the Armed Robbery Unit, assisting with very complex serial cases this past year. One of the greatest challenges in day-to-day investigations is connecting cases. On almost every case or series of cases the Armed Robbery Unit works, detectives depend on Andrea for her opinion and expertise. Her ability to find connections, map everything out, and compile all the available information in a way that is both concise and organized allows detectives to focus on other aspects of the investigative process. Congratulations, Andrea. Chief's Award for Excellence in Policing goes to those individuals who participated in the multi-division ADW investigation, including Detective Shane Matthews, Detective Jeremy Dossett, Detective Anthony Smirka, Officer Elliot Whitley, and Detective Luke Amos. In the Hickory Grove Division, Metro Division, and Central Divisions, there were 3 separate stabbings in September of 2021, one that was fatal. These heinous crimes appeared to target random victims. It began when Hickory Grove officers responded to a stabbing call for service. Then evidence from the preliminary investigation led officers to a second similar incident that occurred earlier that same day in the Metro Division. Detectives also discovered a third similar incident that occurred a day earlier in the Central Division. Officers and detectives from Hickory Grove and Metro Divisions began sharing information and working collaboratively on these 3 cases. They identified a suspect and suspect vehicles. Using traffic cameras, they linked the suspect to the Central Division case. And later that afternoon, the suspect entered the Metro Division office to report a hit and run. Officers recognized the vehicle from surveillance photos and quickly took him into custody, charging him with a litany of charges, including murder. The suspect, justice for the victims would not have occurred without the determination and collaborative efforts of these officers and detectives. Congratulations.
Chief's Unit Citation. The Chief's Unit Citation is awarded to a departmental unit or section whose performance is indicative of a high degree of initiative, determination, diligence, and cooperative effort in the fulfillment of a difficult mission, operation, task, or project.
Our first recipients of the Chief's Unit Citation go to our Human Resources Division. Accepting that award are Tammy Pippin, Latoya Dorsey, Robert Lucas, Jasmine Bennett, Shalise Fields, Shalonda Walls, Keisha Hill, Ryan Martin, Teresa McNally, Wiley Ross Jr., Deborah Din, Erica Hopkins, Melissa Elliott, and Julie Wingfield. Don't go to HR right now, nobody's there. The CMPD's Human Resource Division has taken innovation to a new level with the implementation of the HR On Demand program. HR On Demand was created to allow the members of the CMPD Human Resources Division the opportunity to go out into the field to interact with and witness the daily operations of CMPD from a holistic standpoint and implement creative marketing, monthly trainings, and HR On Demand sessions. Opportunities were created to streamline and create more effective and efficient processes to improve the overall customer service experience for CMPD sworn and civilian staff. Providing exceptional customer service was and remains the Human Resources Division's #1 goal. As a result of HR On Demand, customer satisfaction has significantly increased, processes and communications have improved, and morale has been enhanced. When human resource representatives are in the field, sworn and civilian staff have an opportunity for their inquiries to be heard on the spot, which builds rapport and strengthens trust. This initiative, taken by the staff of the Human Resources Division, is recognized for its creativity, implementation, and innovation. Congratulations all. Our final Chief's Unit Citation Award and the final award for the day go to our Cyber Crime Unit. Included in that unit are Sergeant Jason Armstrong, Detective Christopher DiCarlo, Detective Alita Dunbar, Detective Andrew Key, Detective Christopher McNeil, Roy Patterson, Aaron Reynolds, and Kenya Salter. The members of the Cyber Crimes Unit have a significant impact on every investigative unit in the CMPD with staff that are trained to conduct forensic examinations on nearly every kind of electronic device. In 2021, the Cyber Crimes Unit handled more than 1,500 forensic requests, an increase of 85% from 2020. In addition, the Cyber Crimes Unit handled over 200 requests from external agencies, including the FBI, Secret Service, and other police agencies. In 2021, more than 250 cases, including child pornography, computer hacking, intimidation, and extortion, were assigned directly to a Cyber Crimes Unit detective or analyst. Many of these cases resulted in successful federal prosecutions, resulting in lifelong sentences, particularly in child pornography cases. All this work is conducted as the capability and complexity of electronic devices and evidence becomes more complex. They are recognized for their work, and that impacts every investigative unit in CMPD. Congratulations, and thank you very much. Today, we recognize 147 individuals who performed incredible acts of bravery, extraordinary acts of kindness, and amazing acts of selflessness. The incredible part about all of this is that if you asked each of them if what they did they felt was extraordinary, they would all just say that the day was ordinary. Thank you all for tuning in today to celebrate the great work, the courageous acts, and the indomitable grit that has been shown by the members of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department over the past year. As we close out today's ceremony, I want to personally thank the members of the CMPD Awards Committee, including Major David Robinson, Major Jackie Briley, Major Jackie Halsey, Lieutenant Erica O'Janet, Sergeant Allie Rooks, Officer Chris Pickney, Sandy De La Sua Vestola, Joanna Prentice, Latoya Dorsey, Kirsten Frost, and Paul Paskoff. But most of all, I want to thank the chair of the awards committee, Major Melanie Peacock. Melanie, without your leadership and determination, none of this would have been possible. We look forward to sharing this year's incredible work with you during Police Week next year. Have a beautiful day, and until next time, be blessed.